State trooper has to break terrible news to 4 children, then makes a life-changing decision. It was Halloween night in Georgia when Trooper Nathan Bradley received a call over his radio. There had been a single vehicle wreck and it was bad. When Bradley arrived on the scene, he immediately sensed an eerie calm that unsettled him, and it quickly became clear why the emergency staff were not running around frantically. It was because there was nothing they could do. The 2 adults in the car, Donald and Crystal, could not be saved as they had both sadly died. As a result of the collision, you see Donald and Crystal Howard were making a quick drive to the store to pick up more face paint and candy for Halloween. But just a mile from their home, the couple's SUV went off the road and hit a tree. Trooper Bradley and 2 other officials discovered the couple's ID and their address and were given the dreaded task of having to go to the home to deliver the devastating news to the deceased couple's family. But when they arrived and pounded on the door, Bradley's heart sank when the door opened. Standing before him were 4 young children dressed in their Halloween costumes, peeking from behind the front door. Their innocent eyes were wide with shock to see the police. And as Bradley stared down at the siblings, he felt such a pang in his heart, knowing that they were now orphans and he had to be the one to tell them their parents were no longer alive. Bradley managed to stall breaking the news, whilst he tried to locate the next closest relative to the children, who happened to be the paternal grandmother who lived in South Florida, and even though she planned to leave immediately, it would take 7 hours for her to be able to get down to her grandchildren, and so the 25-year-old trooper notified Child Services and waited as the 4 children, oblivious to their parents' death, ran around the yard laughing and playing. But the longer Bradley looked on, the more his heart ached just knowing that soon their little lives would change completely. Now, technically, the trooper's job was done, and Bradley should have been able to take the children to the station and let protective services handle the rest. But Bradley just couldn't bring himself to do so. It was Halloween night, and they were supposed to be out with their parents, trick-or-treating after all, and so Trooper Bradley scooped them up in his police car and took them out to eat and get milkshakes. During this time, he would learn just how much the siblings adored their parents. They bragged about their mom being an amazing cook and that their dad served in the army. And that's when Trooper Bradley came up with a plan. First, he called his superior to get approval. Then he invited the children back to the Georgia State Patrol post for a tour and a movie night, and they were all very excited. They surprised the siblings with popcorn, candy, and put on a Disney movie, and soon other residents turned up with goodie bags for each of the children. After the movie, there was still some time before their grandmother would arrive, and so, with her consent, Trooper Bradley arranged for the children to sleep at the post, which had several spare bedrooms, and as Bradley tucked them into their beds, one of the kids, a little 10-year-old girl, told him that he had turned an F-day into an A+ night, which, although warmed his heart, was bittersweet, as the trooper knew that soon the children would finally learn the truth about their parents' disappearance. When the grandmother arrived later that night, she and Trooper Bradley agreed that they would wait until the morning to talk to the children to hopefully avoid having them forever linking Halloween to their parents' death. Although this may have sadly been inevitable anyway, seeing as Donald and Crystal passed away on Halloween night, but regardless, they would still choose to wait until the kids finally woke up and were now back in their house. It would be their grandmother who would deliver the heartbreaking news, and shortly after Trooper Bradley would arrive at the home to see how they were coping, and right away, the eldest child, Justin, who understood the gravity of the situation, fell into his arms. Bradley took his old Georgia State Patrol training ball cap and wrote his phone number under the bill, along with a kind note. And it was in this moment that he decided he didn't want to say goodbye forever to the family, as he wanted them to be a part of his life, and so he told them to call him whenever they needed him. And the next day, Justin would do just that. Bradley would continue to reach out to the family, and upon hearing that it would cost them $7,000 to bury their parents, the trooper decided to set up a GoFundMe, hoping to raise the money for Donald and Crystal's funeral, and also to set up a college trust fund for all of the children, and amazingly, in just 6 days, donations from strangers who were so moved by their story flooded in, and the amount raised was over $450,000. The children would eventually leave Georgia and go to live with their grandmother in Florida, but before they left, Trooper Bradley would visit the kids to say goodbye, and they hugged him so hard he could feel it through his vest. Bradley has remained in contact with the family and invited them all to attend his wedding, because it was the first time in the line of duty that he told someone he loved them because he did. And although the family have a lot of healing to get through such tough times, Trooper Bradley's actions have done wonders to help 4 amazing children. And the children's grandmother expressed that she was touched by the way Bradley bonded with the siblings, as he managed to be a bright spot on what was actually a dark day.